Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect fad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. Hello, my name is Isla. Welcome back to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. Today, I am interviewing Mel Spinella for pregnancy nutrition. Mel Spinella is a registered dietitian and founder of the private practice Well by Mel Nutrition. She focuses on nutrition for pregnancy and gestational diabetes. Through her signature program, Balance Bump Method, Mel empowered expectant mothers with nutritional guidance to support a healthy pregnancy and optimal fetal development. This episode, I think, can be really, really helpful, and I hope that we can use it for years to come because she talks all about kind of the different phases of pregnancy and some of the biggest questions that I get from people about how to be healthy and just like questions that I personally had, dietitian to dietitian, about pregnancy nutrition, which I don't feel like there's a lot of information out there that can be trusted around it. So I'm excited to talk to her about that today. Announcements for the Millennial Nutritionist company. We have a new dietitian, Maggie, who was on the previous episode, who is able to take clients now. So she's going to take clients while I am out for the foreseeable future. She's great. She's been with me for a long time. So if you're interested, as of right now, there's still one spot available for her, $100 a month off discount for the 3-month program. So check her profile out or check that interview out if you're interested. Also for Millennial Living, today is the last day, and I actually put a pregnancy guide up that I made a long time ago for a client that you can check out if you feel like you need it. Also, we have a new Whole Foods guide. I made a Whole Foods guide myself, and then I'm going to film a smoothie, how to make a healthy smoothie, because I keep getting questions about this from clients right after I get off this. So that should be up by the end of the day today, hopefully. So those are all the announcements for me. Without further ado, let's dive into the meat of today's episode. As a disclaimer, Mel will be talking about general pregnancy nutrition information today, but this is not the substitute for professional nutrition or medical advice, and always consult your professional healthcare provider prior to making any diet or supplement changes. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive in because there's a lot of meaty stuff I have to get to today. But first of all, can we start out with just like some general intro questions / definitions? Like, why overall should we even care about prenatal nutrition as, I guess, like a pregnant person?
That is a great question. So, if there is ever a time to care about nutrition, it is during pregnancy. You are building an entire human plus an organ, the placenta. Your body needs a lot of protein and nutrients to do this. And I'm not just talking about increasing your calorie needs. Sure, calorie needs do increase a bit later in pregnancy, but what is really increasing significantly during pregnancy is your needs for certain vitamins and minerals. And some can increase quite a bit from the pre pregnancy time. So, that is really a key difference between just a regular healthy diet and a healthy diet for pregnancy is being intentional about your food choices. So, you're eating the right foods with the right nutrients to support a healthy pregnancy and optimal fetal development. In addition, it's important to understand what needs to be avoided. So, there are certain things that are recommended to be avoided. For example, alcohol, high mercury fish, limiting caffeine intake. And then there's a number of foods that are at a higher risk of causing foodborne illness. And pregnant people have a depressed immune system, making them more vulnerable to getting foodborne illness, which could harm the baby. So it's important to be aware of those foods so you can make informed decisions about what to eat during pregnancy. And then pregnancy nutrition is important for other things, for example, appropriate weight gain, management of certain conditions, for example, gestational diabetes. And then it can also help manage and even prevent certain common pregnancy symptoms like constipation, nausea, and reflux.
Gotcha, gotcha. So yeah, my next question was going to be like, what impacts can following these, or just like I guess caring or knowing about it have? And it sounds like you kind of answer that with maybe like avoiding certain diseases that pregnant people could have, like as far as like gestational diabetes, but also in making sure to increase those vitamins and minerals. Or maybe can you speak to that? Like, what impact does that have? Slash, like I guess like what would happen if we just like didn't care about it?
So, sorry, prenatal nutrition can't avoid gestational diabetes, but it plays a pivotal role in the management of the condition.
Gotcha.
But that is a great question. So, proper prenatal nutrition can help support the developing baby because they need a lot of nutrients to do this, can also help prevent birth defects and also certain medical complications, things like anemia, for example.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. And then any major like conditions or caveats that we should consider before we go into all the rest of the questions that I have about like general pregnancy nutrition?
Sure. So I will be talking about nutrition for a single pregnancy. So this wouldn't be
Mm.
applicable to twin or multiple pregnancies, and be talking just about a general healthy pregnancy diet. So this wouldn't be applicable to anyone with certain health conditions, food allergies, or food restrictions.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. So my first question for you is, I'm trying to like try to format this as like maybe following somebody's like whole pregnancy through. So thinking through the first trimester, why is it okay to eat like whatever you can if you're super sick in the first trimester? Just because I feel like I see a lot of this on the internet and I get a lot of questions about it too, of like, yeah, but don't I need to like force myself to like eat the healthiest things? But like, can we maybe go into why your body is amazing and can do with what you give it in the first trimester anyway?
Absolutely. So, of course, you can eat what you can during the first trimester as long as it's a food that's safe to eat during pregnancy. And those early weeks can be really hard to eat well. But this is where taking a high quality prenatal vitamin can really help fill in the gaps of a less than optimal diet. And what I often hear is people can only tolerate carbs, refined carbs, things like crackers or toast or white rice. So, this is where that prenatal vitamin can help fill in the gaps. And also, this is where your body can rely on its nutrient stores, which is why preconception nutrition is also so important. So, ideally, pregnancy nutrition doesn't start the second you get that positive pregnancy test. Ideally, we're working towards this for months before pregnancy to help build up those nutrient stores.
Yeah.
But I
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so I think the biggest mistake that I see people make is thinking that these symptoms like nausea, food aversions, they're just something that they have to deal with. They just think it's a part of pregnancy without seeking solutions. But it is possible to optimize your nutrition and help try to reduce these symptoms through nutrition. And I'm happy to go through a few tips if you'd like.
Yeah, that was an audience question that I got when I asked my audience on Instagram if they would have anything about this topic. And somebody asked what to do, or like what I guess is the protocol, or what's the best way that they can stay healthy if they're having some of those like first trimester symptoms. So you can go into that now.
Totally. So, a lot of this will be person dependent, but the first thing I'd say is try to identify your nausea triggers. And that can be really tough because they can change. They may not be the same. But for a lot of people, I find that strong smells can be a trigger, especially if you are cooking food. So, if you imagine you are cooking a meal, you're smelling the food's getting heated. By the time you finish making that meal, you are so grossed out, you have no interest in eating that meal. So something like cold foods that can be naturally served cold, think overnight oats, Greek yogurt bowl, smoothies, a lot of people find sound refreshing. Those could be good alternatives because they're not going to have as strong of a smell, so they may be easier to tolerate.
Mm.
The second tip I would say is not trying to avoid an empty stomach. So you could do this by eating small meals consistently because that empty, like gnawing feeling in your stomach, that can trigger nausea. So always trying to keep something in your stomach by eating those small amounts every couple of hours. And then seeing where you can add protein and fat into your diet. So if you can only tolerate carbs, let's see if we can pair it with something with some protein and fat to make it a little bit more blood sugar friendly. For example, if you can eat tortilla chips, can we dip it in guacamole? If you can eat crackers, can we pair it with cheese? If you're eating white rice, can we cook it in bone broth? Because adding some protein and fat, like I said, will make it better for your blood sugar, and blood sugar swings may trigger nausea. And then
Gotcha.
the last tip I'll give is taking an appropriate amount of vitamin B6. So, vitamin B6 can help with nausea, and it's not included in every prenatal vitamin. So, this is something you could work with either a dietitian or your OBGYN, having them take a look at your supplements and see if there's an opportunity to add in any additional vitamin B6.
Do you feel like you're tired of trying every new diet out there whenever you're ready to lose weight, but you never really find long term success because it's either too restrictive or just not conducive to your lifestyle? Well, then let me tell you about our 3-month lifestyle reset program. This is an individualized weight loss approach where you'll be going through our proven 6-step method and you'll be led by a registered dietitian. By becoming a client of the program, you'll be able to learn how to control your weight, increase your energy and confidence, and also improve your overall well-being. Not to be dramatic, but a lot of clients tell us that they actually change their lives by going through the program and finally find a sustainable weight loss solution when they actually haven't found that with any other program. If you are interested in becoming a client, sign up for a discovery call on our website, themillennialnutritionist.com, with me, Isla Garcia, and I'll help match you with one of our registered dietitian coaches based off of your challenges and their nutrition expertise. If you're ready to find a sustainable weight loss solution in a non-judgmental and encouraging environment, I hope you'll connect with us soon. So are there is there like a first trimester like nutritional goal, or is it really just to like see what you can do with like what your symptoms are?
See what you can do with what your symptoms are. So, trying different things to help tolerate more foods, not only for baby, but also for you. Don't want this to be a terrible, really nauseous, sick feeling experience in the trimester. So, I definitely think it's worth trying things to see if symptoms can improve for both you and baby. And for a lot of people, they can improve. Not everyone, but it's definitely worth trying.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I feel like that's most of the questions we got about like first trimester. Now, since I mostly focus on weight loss with clients in my business, I always get a lot of questions about weight gain or people that want to work with me like before they start, and because I don't really do pregnancy. So I have some questions here about weight gain. Can you speak a little bit to weight gain during pregnancy, maybe in general, since this is what you do?
Sure. So the weight gain recommendations are based on pre-pregnancy BMI, which we know BMI is not an ideal measure. So those who are in the quote unquote normal BMI pre-pregnancy category are recommended to gain 25 to 35 pounds during pregnancy. Those in the lower pre-pregnancy BMI categories are recommended to gain a little bit more, and then those with higher pre-pregnancy BMIs are recommended to gain a little bit less.
And then what happens if you gain too much versus too little, or does it really not matter like outside of those ranges that you're saying?
Yeah, so you want to gain the healthy amount of weight for you because there are consequences to inadequate or excessive weight gain. So, for inadequate weight gain, baby could be at a low birth weight.
Mm.
There's a risk of baby being born prematurely. And then it could also impact baby's development if they're not getting adequate calories and nutrients from food. And then for mom's at risk for low energy because food, of course, is energy. Mom's also at risk for nutritional deficiencies and higher risk of things like anemia. And then for excessive weight gain, babies at risk also for preterm birth, for being a large baby, which could make birth a little bit more complicated. Baby shoulders could get stuck on the way out. It can increase mom's likelihood of having a C section. It can also put mom at increased risk for certain complications like preeclampsia, hypertension, gestational diabetes, make it more difficult to lose weight during postpartum. And also, it could just increase discomfort. The end of pregnancy can be pretty uncomfortable, and just extra weight gain could exacerbate that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Do you actually, or like, do pregnant people actually have control over the weight? Because I feel like I see so many conflicting things online and even from like my doctor. It seems like some of them are in the camp of like, yes, you have control, and some of them are like, no, your body's just going to do what it does.
That is a great question. So, yes and no. Truthfully, I care more about what my clients are eating, what their overall meal patterns are looking like, how they're feeling, what their energy levels are like, how baby is progressing, more than just the number on the scale.
Mhm.
I think it's important to have a general idea of what weight gain looks like, but I like to focus more on those health promoting behaviors versus just weight gain. I think that makes for a more positive pregnancy experience.
So focusing a little bit more, I mean, like, I feel like a lot of us in the like the weight category look at things too, as far as like it's just like one piece of the puzzle. Like, let's look at overall like how your body's actually performing, and then like kind of using nutrition to help with those symptoms. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. So, are we eating meals and snacks with protein, fat, and fiber? Are we eating consistently, like not going longer than 5 hours? Because, when we're really hungry, it's really hard to make healthy food choices. Um, are we trying to get movement in that feels good? Do we have all of those healthy habits established? And then, things tend to fall into place with that. My focus is definitely more on nourishment for mom and baby, more so than than just the number on the scale.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like I see that a lot since I'm pregnant, like thinking through things. I see that a lot too. And I like that mentality more too of like, let's focus, like it's a short period of time. Let's like really focus on like getting more of the nutrients in that you need. And then weight we can kind of worry about after, but do your best like with exercise and stuff like that. So it kind of sounds like you're saying the same. How about the mentality? Because I also see a different mentality on like social media of like, just eat what you're feeling or craving. Like it's okay. How do you feel about that? Especially, as a dietitian, and I'm sure you feel the same. It's like, I feel like I could probably do that. But what about for people that, don't come in with like a really good microbiome that's going to help them crave like healthy foods? Like, can you kind of speak to that mentality?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. So, of course, I want my clients to be enjoying food. I want them to be honoring their cravings. But I want them to be balancing them out with those nutrient dense food because pregnancy is a time where every bite really does count nutritionally. So we're looking for, those overall healthy eating patterns, eating balanced meals and whatnot, and then fitting in those foods that they enjoy with that. A mistake that I do see is people just adding in a prenatal vitamin and that's it, not making any other changes. And if you've ever compared different prenatal vitamins, they're pretty different. There's not a standard formula for a prenatal vitamin, so options do vary widely. And even if you're taking, the highest quality prenatal vitamin, they're likely not meeting 100% of your needs. And that's really where being intentional, eating nutrient dense foods is really important. And everyone starts in a different place. I see people that are already eating healthy and they just want to tweak their healthy diet to be a healthy pregnancy diet. And then I see people who are like, I don't have, the best eating habits. And now is the time I want to prioritize it, for my health, my baby's health. I want to set a good example for my future children. So I think it's really important to meet people where they're at and help them implement, healthy habits that are practical and sustainable for them.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. This question might be a little bit more in depth. I'm not sure, but I honestly, I was just going to pick your brain for the calorie recommendations that we see, or anybody could even look up for pregnancy. Do you know what they're at all based on? Like, do you ever even like recommend them or follow them? Because it seems like they have those recommendations out there, but then it's like, what are they based on? Is it based on like your maintenance? But then like sometimes people will exercise less when they're pregnant because it's hard. So then like, do you add calories on that? Like, can you kind of speak to the where the calorie recommendations even come from, if you know?
Yeah, so the calorie recommendations are based on your pre-pregnancy BMI as well as what stage of pregnancy you're in. So generally, it's for the quote unquote normal pre-pregnancy BMI range, it's 340 additional calories in the second trimester and 450 additional calories in the third trimester. And sure, if you are exercising less, you may not be as hungry, it may not, need as many calories. But I think this is where getting in touch with your personal hunger and fullness cues is really important to make sure that you are fueling yourself adequately, but you're also eating an amount that feels good to you.
Yeah, yeah, because I felt like I've seen other people's stories that say even like I'm sure, or I'd be interested to hear what you say about this too. That seems like also people end up like gaining at different rates. Like some people will gain a lot in the first trimester and then kind of like not gain as much throughout the rest. And then some people are like opposite. So I don't know if that has to do with like what they're eating or how their body responds, but it kind of sounds like you're saying the same thing, is like really just kind of tune into like what your body needs at that time. Is that right?
Yeah, and everyone is so different. Some people find that, they're really bloated, they're really constipated maybe too in that first trimester, and they notice the number on the scale goes up a little quicker than they expected. Some people that doesn't happen to. I think in school, what we learned is like the first trimester, it's like 0 to 5 pounds, and then it's like 1 pound a week for the rest of pregnancy, starting in the second trimester. And in my experience, it's normally not that perfectly linear pattern. Everyone sort of follows a different path.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then is there an amount that is safe or not safe? Or like, is there, if somebody were listening to this and they're trying to be a little bit more open-minded about weight gain during pregnancy, is there like a limit they should be like, okay, at this point I should be worried? Or is it like a conversation between like you and your dietitian or your provider? Or what about that question?
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why when you go in for your doctor's appointment that they are checking weights. And if there is anything concerning, this is where it would be a good opportunity to check in with your doctor and see a dietitian if you have anything concerning, just to help get you on the right path as well. Just because, there's a lot of things that you can do nutritionally, to help boost nutrition, to help gain an amount of weight that feels good, to help you, with your energy levels and just feel good overall without sacrificing the foods that you love.
Yeah. All right, moving into away from the weight questions. What are the most dangerous like nutritional actions we should avoid just so people can keep in mind? Like I always like to ask this question so we know like, okay, like there's all this like riffraff, I feel like online, but it's like maybe these are the things to keep in mind that you should like absolutely not do if there are any.
Yeah. So a big one is not taking supplements without the guidance of a dietitian or your OBGYN.
Mm.
Because, and I'm not talking about a prenatal vitamin. That's something we want to be taking, but there's just so many different supplements out there. And supplements are pills, supplements are powders, and not all supplements are safe to consume during pregnancy. So that's definitely something that is important to review with your professional healthcare provider to make sure what you're taking is safe. And then also, some supplements may contain added vitamins and minerals in them. So, that's another reason why it's important to do that supplement review, because additional vitamins and minerals on top of your prenatal vitamin, it is possible to be too much. So, we
Mhm.
want to make sure that we're taking the right amount because there is consequences to taking excessive amounts. Sometimes I hear things like, I've heard this, vitamin was good. I'm gonna, get a supplement. And some of the supplement quantities of nutrients can be pretty high. So you want to make sure, you're reviewing what you're taking. And if you're getting supplements from a variety of places, that they're checking the quantity as well. Um, and then supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. So if you're getting supplements, you want to make sure that they are third party tested. And that essentially checks that the supplement contains what it's supposed to contain and doesn't have any contaminants.
Okay, so big one is just making like maybe running through with your provider the supplements you're taking and just making sure if you're changing anything, adding anything that they're aware and that they can check off on it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I have a list too of things that I was wondering that I want to know are overhyped or is it really something to worry about? So first off, caffeine, which was an audience question. I think because there is a lot of like I don't know if it's like old that some people like are like, oh, you absolutely shouldn't have any, but then some people I've even seen out to 300 milligrams is okay. Like, what is your stance on caffeine?
Yeah, so the recommendation for pregnancy is up to 200 milligrams of caffeine. So no more than like a cup of coffee a day.
Mm.
I find that most people don't know the amount of caffeine in what they're drinking. If you're someone that goes out and gets coffee from, one of the major stores, you can check. There's a website called Caffeine Informer that can tell you the amount of caffeine. But typically, I would say no more than like one cup of coffee. And also, it's important to realize that caffeine comes from multiple places. So coffee, it's also in sodas, it's also in things like chocolate as well. I'm of the mindset, less is better. So, half calf, decaf, those are all options as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was gonna say that because when I was running to my doctor, I was like, okay, add this, and I was like, yeah, but then what if I have Diet Coke and a tea? She's like, yeah, I didn't even think about those things. I was like, that's crazy. I feel like a lot of people don't.
Yeah, so raw produce, so uncooked fruits and vegetables,
Mhm.
those are really nutrient dense foods for pregnancy. So I would say I think they can definitely fit into a healthy pregnancy diet. There are certain things that you can do to help reduce the risk. So this is when I would avoid pre-cut fruits and vegetables. Um, and choosing to buy the whole fruit or vegetable and cut it yourself. I know
Mhm.
that's a pain, but taking that extra precaution, again, just will help reduce the risk of foodborne illness. And then just practicing good food safety. So making sure you're thoroughly washing your produce. If something looks funny, I would avoid it. Checking expiration dates, even washing things that you don't normally wash, like, for example, the skin of the avocado, but just because if you cut into that, the bacteria from the peel can get into the avocado, for example, keeping it away from contaminated surfaces or, raw meats and whatnot. Um, and then for deli meat, so there is actually an outbreak of listeria now. So
I
I
was
would
gonna
steer
ask.
clear of deli meat right now.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna ask because I thought about you this week when I saw that coming up, and I was like, okay, this is why we actually do avoid these, right? Because like there's that, or like, is there extra precautions to take if something like this were to come up again? If somebody like were to listen to this in the future, can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, so generally speaking, the CDC recommends, heating deli meat to
Mhm.
steaming hot reduces the risk. But right now, I would say, due to the listeria outbreak, not the time for deli meat.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. What about alcohol?
So, no amount of alcohol is considered safe for pregnancy. And also, the way our body processes alcohol, it does deplete our nutrients. And pregnancy is a time that we really want to be focused on consuming more nutrients. So, because of that, alcohol is best to be avoided.
You kind of touched on this a little bit too with the prepared or pre-cut fruits and vegetables, but what about other prepared items like that whole deli section at the grocery store?
Yeah, so like pre-made tuna salads and chicken salads and egg salads, I would steer clear of these because they are at a higher risk of listeria. I'd say try to, make those yourself if possible.
And I find that those are so hard, especially yeah, in the beginning. I remember before I even realized that was a part of it. That's like all I bought because I was like, oh, I like don't want to feel like making anything. And then the OB was like, okay, if I give you like two things not to eat, one of them will for sure be anything from that deli area. I was like, dang. But I totally understand that. And my last question on this is what about mercury in fish? I live on the coast in Charleston. And so I end up eating a lot of fish. And a lot of people, when I post on Instagram, are like, oh my gosh, why are you eating fish? Can you kind of talk about that part?
Yes, that's a great question. So, different fish contain different levels of mercury, and there are a number of high mercury fish. For example, king mackerel, swordfish, shark, and those should be avoided during pregnancy. Um, and then there are low mercury fatty fish, for example, salmon and sardines. And those are recommended to consume during pregnancy because they contain the omega 3 fatty acid DHA, which is important for baby's brain development. Um, and if anyone's not familiar, the FDA has this great chart. If you just Google FDA fish pregnancy, and it shows which fish are low in mercury, which have medium amounts of mercury, and which are high in mercury, and the safe amounts to consume during pregnancy, if any. Um, but fish can definitely be involved in a healthy pregnancy diet. I think a mistake I see a lot of people make is eating nuts and seeds to meet their omega 3 intake. And you are getting omega 3s from things like walnuts and nuts and seeds. but you're not getting DHA, which is the one that we want. It's important for brain development. It's been linked to higher IQ scores in children, so that you can get from fatty fish. And if fish sound absolutely disgusting in the first trimester, for a lot of people it does, DHA supplementation is also an option.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Yeah, because I feel like that is a hard one because I've read that the DHA helps so much with the brain development, and then the mercury, and it's like it was one of those that you kind of pick between. But it sounds like just avoid those really high ones for sure, and try to include the ones that are lower but have the DHA. Is that right? Like salmon, right? Um,
Exactly.
this one is something I haven't experienced, but I see a lot, and so I'm interested to hear because I really don't know the answer to this. Is there anything you can consume to rush delivery or like help with labor? Just because I do see like so much about like people having what is it, the dates and the drinks or whatever. Can you kind of talk about that?
So not really. Yeah, so I've seen, dates, pineapple, spicy foods. If you're later pregnancy and you want to try those, you certainly can, but we don't have strong scientific data that supports it will actually help.
Gotcha. And then last question I want to leave people with is somebody's super inspired by this episode and they're like, okay, I'm ready to improve my nutrition. What is like the one thing that somebody could do, maybe that would be the most impactful or easiest or whatever you think somebody should walk away with from this episode that a person can do right now if they want to improve their nutritional habits during pregnancy?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is if you can eat them, eat eggs.
Mm,
Eggs are nutritional powerhouses for pregnancy. They contain choline, which choline is important for brain development, nervous system function, gene expression, may help reduce risk of neural tube defects. So does a lot of things and it's not included in every prenatal vitamin. So eating eggs can help meet your choline needs for pregnancy.
and
And
then,
then in
oh,
addition, oh,
go
sorry, go
ahead.
I
I was going to say, and you're saying specifically the whole egg, right? Or is it not just the egg white?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you want to eat the whole egg because the yolks are where all the good stuff is. It's where a lot of the vitamins and minerals are concentrated. So also vitamin A, D, B12, iron, to name a few.
Okay, gotcha. And what were you going to say next, or was that it?
That was it.
Okay, good. All right, well, awesome. I think this was a super informative episode. If somebody again is like really inspired, ready to work on their nutrition, they feel like they need help, where can people work with you, reach you, follow you, next steps, anything like that?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at wellbymel underscore or my website, wellbymelnutrition.com. And you can find more information about my prenatal nutrition coaching program, Balance Bump Method, there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mel.
Thanks so much for having me, Isla. I really enjoyed this episode.